Bubba G Scotch, KUBO, KUSP, KHDC, Radio Bilingüe, 90.9 FM. Just a young kid in the 70s, hungry to soak in a lot of music and to share it. When I was a kid, music blew my mind, and once it did, all I ever wanted to do from the get-go was just to collect 45s, to collect albums. Basically my heart was to share what was in me, because I knew what music did to me. It just pushed out the joy that I have inside. It pushed it out, and as it did that, it encouraged a lot of people, and likewise it backfired, and it encourages me to keep doing what I'm doing. Listening to what was on radio was not enough for me, because I knew there was another edge out there that was to be captured, and that was the music that was alive. And to me, music that was alive was music that was at a disco or a DJ presenting it, because you were hearing music and DJs giving it that extra punch and drawing that excitement, and I knew that if you could get the radio and put the live aspect to it, and just give it that edge, and people would blow up with excitement, and that was to crunch both radio and disco together. And being that was my state of mind, I knew I was in unison with the rest of the world, because that was happening all over the place. You know, when you're in unison, it's a movement that's beyond our comprehension, and it's supposed to happen, and it can't just happen with one person. It has to be an army, worldwide, a movement to cause that hyper state of mind, and that's what hip hop, the different music cultures have brought to me throughout the years. And my mission has always been to put it out there, and put those. As you put it out there, you're basically I'm just like a farmer, you know, throwing out seeds, and people just growing from that. And the biggest joy that I could ever get is somebody saying that they grew up on this stuff, and they were really listening, because at the time that you're doing it, you don't feel, actually you feel what's in you going out, but you have a lot of opposition, because if you're the only one doing it, people can't, even though they want to say something, they don't. So you have a lot of opposition saying, man, you don't let the song play all the way through, we don't even know that song. But the whole thrill of it was to play something that was funky, that was good, that you never heard of, and also to play something that you don't regularly, I'm repeating myself, you don't regularly hear on a 9 to 5. You want to hear something fresh, just like I always compare music to food. You know, a buffet, have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, combine it all together and display it, and let people have at it, you know. And from there, you know, they just grow and just grow with whatever sound is coming at them. And when the sound comes at them, you know, it just boosts whatever area of life you're in, you know. Been in situations where I was just like just mentally a little down, and just my wife turns on the radio, and it's music, and it's magical, man. It's powerful. It can turn you in an instant, turn you totally around, and have you going for the better. And, medicine should be prescribed. Prescribed in heavy doses. Whatever your style of music is, we all have styles. We should all have music prescribed to us, whether we know it or we don't. Okay, well, you know, just music just keeps pressing on, and you're young and you're hungry, and you just want to get what's in you that wants to explode, and then you hear a record. Now you hear a record and it reminds you of yourself. And one of those early memories was King Tim, Fatback Band, with King Tim III. This dude just starts coming on and he's rhyming, and I looked to my friend BC Mac, and I said, you know, he's another fellow DJ, local discotheque here in Salinas, and that record is reminding of what we did, or what we were doing at the disco. He was representing for us, yet we never knew him, but yet he was telling the world this is what the DJ does, and that was King Tim personality job, and that he was basically sharing our lifestyle with the world of what funk club would do, you know. Not necessarily just play the music, but interact with the music, you know. Rhyme from one record to the next record, to bring this record in, and find creative ways, you know, to intro and outro different records, but you had to rhyme. And one of the earliest memories was that King Tim III, and it's wonderful because he broke the ice. He basically was telling the world what the funk DJ did at the club, and that's all due respect what he did, and for us. If it had been him, it would have been another person who would have been out there. And I mean, along followed Curtis Blow, Sugar Hill, and there's many documentation saying who was first and what was first, but basically I just go on by what would grab me in the beginning, and I just followed along with it, you know. To this day I have a little cutout of them announcing King Tim III, you know, and that was, to my understanding, the first joint that displayed the funk DJ doing his thing, and that was dope. One of the biggest thrills I ever wanted to do was to play in a band, and I made my mom buy me a electric guitar, and I put Jimi Hendrix type of shirt on, and just taking pictures with it, it kind of drew me closer to what I wanted to do. And then not only the music, but you had to do something with music. It was a movement involved, and it was in your body, and dancing was part of it. Turn on the TV, and you mimic what's on TV, because you just want to be able to express yourself, and you want to say, well, I want to express myself, and that's the way I do it. So when I say we, I'm saying the world. We all followed along with what was on the television, you know. And at the time, everybody was following the lockers, and lockers were the ones that would express themselves, clap your hands, do so many movements, you know, and it would have to be organized, and we got friends together, and we said, you know, we got these 45s, let's make a little routine just like the lockers did. And that was our influence in dancing, and we did that. Matter of fact, that's how I basically started the whole entertainment. Was we would actually get booked at little parties, little company parties, store parties, and my group was called the Master Locks. You know, there was many groups out here, Junior Lockharts, Soul Survivors, Let's see, Soul Survivors. There's another group, I can't think of it right offhand. We're off the seaside. And we would all perform at schools. And I used to grasp the feel. I used to ride around with a group called the Junior Law Cards. I used just to be around them, for the influences they had. And I drifted from that into having my own group called Master Locks. Just kids having fun. But we used to go to the discos up in the Bay Area, and you know, the next level was to actually be behind the music. And I would just go around the DJ booth in early mid 70s, and I said, you know, that's what I'm doing. And I started doing house parties, stereo consoles, playing an 8-track and the turntable. That was my beginnings. Playing for my sister's friends from Fort Ord. We had an army base here in the area, Fort Ord, and they were all into a lot of music. Being that a lot of them were from the East Coast, so we locally had a very thick East Coast influence, very similar to that of the Bronx. And when I say that is that the majority of people here in Fort Ord were from back east, and when they would come to this area, young adults that were GIs, they'd always be asking about what was hot back home. You know, you have this, we just got this in New York, and so we kind of like always looked for that little record shop, two little record shops in Marina and Seaside, who really captured that feel, and then later a third and then a fourth record shop came into play, where our clientele was nothing but GIs, always asking us for New York, so we had to be on top of that. Prior to that, prior to this record shop, I worked here in Salinas right after high school, playing house parties, DJing little house parties, and then started doing discotheques underage. Where I didn't have my own age, I would go in and they would allow me to go in and play a record or two, a couple here and there. But I would get in, and from that it progressed into working record shops and seeing how the whole industry worked together, and it was amazing. We did a lot of first calls. What I mean by that is we sold a lot of cutting edge dance music through the record shops because of the knowledge of the street. When I say street, you listen to the people, what they're asking you for. Not necessarily what's on the document. You look through the billboards and stuff, right? But that's a whole different story from the real story from the street. You listen to what is out there, what they're asking you for, and that's what you order. And that went into working record shops, Big Apple Records, Marina and Seaside, running back and forth in 2 stores. Prior to that, as I mentioned, I worked the warehouse here in Salinas. You saw loads and loads and loads of records come in. That's why there's loads and loads of records right now in storage that people might not be aware that people have. Tons of 12 inches. 12 inches for every 45 that was available. 45 record, there was a ton of 12 inches. Locally, they're in storages all over the world. Locally, they're in storages, but worldwide, there's so many 12-inch singles and records in storage. It's mind-boggling how many people have, and they're just in the corner somewhere. So there's nothing like it. To me, it's like a toy store. Being around a lot of records, and that's my joy. One of my joys is when I got time, I like to just go through into a vintage record store and just go through music. Even if I don't buy nothing, it's just the thrill of going through records. It's an incredible feeling. You have to have lived it to experience it and to grasp what I'm trying to explain. From there, you know, you have music around you. Now, you hear late night radio, and they're doing something good, but you wanna come on and do something and add more punch to it. And that's when I read an article locally here in Salinas, California, talking about a volunteer radio station that was to come to play. And the first office of KUBO 90.9 FM was right next door to the Greyhound bus depot on Gabland. I went in there and I told them I was interested. And back then it seemed like miles distance to touch that. And they told me, yeah, the station's coming aboard. It's just right around the corner. And matter of fact, you're so interested, let's take a walk down there. And they brought me down to 90.9 FM studios. And it was just a building, 2x4s that had just been abandoned, you know, and they were rebuilding. All you saw was 2x4s all over the place, webs and everything. And they said this would be the studios. And I just waited patiently. And when the time did come, I sprung into action. And many people, of course, were not really aware of what this station was going to do or about to do. But we had many people from the community get involved, lawyers, many businessmen, businesswomen getting involved, and the board of directors. And the very first Friday night was you know, people ask me about Friday nights, how did it all begin? Well, it began with a guy named Alfonso Filon. He was a young Filipino cat who was right out of high school, and he had one of the first early shifts, like about 6 to 9. And then when I came on between 9 and 12, and they decided to put me in a duet type of situation with the knowledge that I had on music to just interact with this other host. His name was Frank Burnings, and he would ask me questions about music, and we would interact. What was going on right now, and what was going to happen, and about the music, since he knew I was involved with music. And just shortly, just months, he decided to move on, and I stayed behind, and I carried on the Friday nights, the original Friday nights. All right, so we're jamming, and it's KUBO 90.9 FM. This is early 80s. The name of the show was Filet of Soul. Concentration was soul music, cutting edge soul music. Along connected to that, we had to go with what was on the street, and what was on the street was cats from New York breaking rap records. Not only Rapper's Delight, but other offsprings that came into play. And I just hung out through the years, just gathering this stuff, ordering it through mail, on the phone, you know, mail, having stuff shipped to me, UPS, next day. To be fresh, you had to be next day. You couldn't wait till 3 months, 6 months down the road. You had to have it as soon as it dropped. And we had it drop. I mean, my mom started signing for the packages that I would order for the music that would come. And we would just drop it. And I was always asked, how come you don't play a song twice sometimes that you play? And I go, there's so much I gotta share with y'all. And they go, how come you're on so many different hours? Because I always believed that a DJ must pay dues, and I paid my dues, not by what was offered to me. I looked and I asked what hours are open throughout the schedule. So I would do early morning shifts, late radio, anywhere I could get my records played, I did it, and that was to keep planning, to keep sowing a lot of good good music. I know that eventually, someday, it'd get noticed. Along the line, I knew that it takes an army, and in the Monterey Peninsula, we had KSPB happening, and it just created that much more of an energy flow. And KUSP had something going on, but I knew that I had to keep doing my thing in order for those other areas to grow. We had to keep pushing. Whatever we were pushing, it was good because people would remind me of the other stations what they were doing, and I would listen every now and then. I said, right on. And it took an army, and it took the whole peninsula to just push and bring that muscle, which not considered, but was rap was part of it. And rap wasn't just solid rap shows. Rap was put into the middle of Confunction and arcades. Rap was in the midst. It was just part of the party. If the DJ didn't want to say something, he would play the rap joint, and the rap joint would speak for him. Because prior to the MC stepping in front of the mic, the DJ was the MC. He was the motivator, and that's what it gets lost along the way. But the original MC was the DJ. I have memories of where I would turn the record over and to just start rhyming verses over instrumentals, and that was the beginning of the rap scene. It was just to get people hyped up at the party, and you had to rhyme. And that's what set you apart. You had to think of creative rhymes, funny, or just stunning lines, and you could create that by going out to the people, and that meant going out and being part of school dances, being part of clubs, and just getting a hold of anywhere you could perform with the music. You go into the memories of club culture, and that basically was a joint that was hooked up through actually having one of my first gigs at Santa Cruz High. People listening in to KUBO and requesting me to come to their school and play music, and some of those people from Santa Cruz High referred me to a guy named Richard, and Richard wanted to meet with me, and that's how club culture. He said what he wanted to do, and I was down for it. But that meant to leave my area and commit myself to Santa Cruz for a minute, and I did. And I committed myself to this place called Club Culture, and all it was going to be was a cutting edge club with everything that I was doing on radio, but to bring it to the club scene, and bring it in a funky way, the way I was doing it on radio, and always talking about New York, because New York was the cutting edge. We had some people from LA doing stuff, and we acknowledged them, but New York was always the one that was the leader of the pack. The record shops in Fort Ord, in Seaside, had a lot of offspring off New York. Matter of fact, just like people mentioned Kool Herc and the Pioneers and so forth, we had I believe I was trying to think of his origin, but his background, I believe it's Jamaican, or Kool Herc's background. We actually had a guy in Seaside who had the accent, and I believe was Jamaican. He was from the islands, and he had that mentality of the disco and funk. He had DJs under him, and I mean, Fort Ord was an vast area where he had actually DJs going out there pushing records. And since he was from New York, all the records he would get would be, of course, from New York. And he always shared that with us, and people would ask us for these records, like the Spoonie G records, the Woody Wood, you know, so many names I've never ran across unless I would go to his record shop. It was Mary Dean. It was a crew by the name of Mary Dean, Sam Brown, and they brought to light that they were from back east, and you know, they had a following, and I was listening, and I was always listening, wanting to learn more, and we had Big Apple Records popping off, working strong. We had to sell the records. And a record shop never has to be 50 feet, or it just has to be a little room with enough space for the records. And that's what record shops were back then. And we just had to push what people were asking us for. And when people were so hungry to hear the latest thing from back east, that you had no problem with picking something of your choice and putting it in. You know, we had many joints that were so dope. One song that I can remember that's still one of my all-time is "Lock It Up" by Leprechaun. Off the wall little label from New York, but really dope. Sounded like Shalimar. So much disco and funk, soul disco and funk influenced my life, and that's what makes me to this day. Is to reach out and to grasp other sources of music. It just makes it that much more exciting to see how influence we would touch other bases through our, how soul disco and funk is connected to all areas of music. So we have club culture popping off, and we need to bring some entertainment, and there was so many choices, and one of the choices I found out was, hey, Africa Bambaataa, you know, got to get him here, and we did that, and we agreed on it, and went to go pick him up at the airport, and funny, it was so hysterical. I picked up my friend Joaquin. And it was so hysterical that I was nervous driving from the airport to Santa Cruz, because this guy had Bambaataa laughing in the back, and his friends. We were just this little car just laughing up a storm, silly jokes, and just talking about, you know, the evening show. And, we got to club culture, and it was a great response. A lot of people came out. And I got to share the stage with Bambaataa, you know, DJing, and it was a memory that had been locked in. Prior to that, I had told people of my association with him, and knowing about him was something I was also doing prior to. When I found out about what he did back east, I was doing it here unknowingly, where I would sponsor dancers here in Salinas and in Monterey, where we would get together. Filipinos, blacks, Chicanos, and whites. We'd be uniting them at halls like the Armory Hall, Cardinal College, Monterey Fairgrounds, even south, you know, to different halls down south. And race was never an issue. People just came out dressed to, you know, dressed to impress, and people just came out. They came out for the music. They came out for the music. The cutting edge music that radio was not giving them. You know, you could listen to radio, California radio, and you could count how many songs were being played that were of soul appeal. People came out for the DJs, to the dances, because of the music, and that fun music. It had to be fun. It had to be funky. It had to have big bass lines, drums. It had to have some rhyming in between. And the rhyming was so essential and so needed to get parties motivated, and club culture went on, and I try to get people involved in club culture, which they did, and then it was time to come back home, and prior to that, in between doing club culture, I would go to the New Music Seminar back east and spend some time back east, and just gather more information and and just soak myself up with East Coast culture, just soak myself, and that's what I did. That's what I concentrated in. In the midst of it, when I came back, I was told that KUBO was going to be cut off for a period of time because of funding, and I started sorting out the different stations that could serve me, and I could serve them. What I was doing, and it was hard to find, and I had to go back to the roots. I had to pay dues. I had to once again go and find out what's available, how late, and I did it. And that's where KUSP. I met a young kid, Cutmaster Kurt. He was excited. He was doing something very similar to what I was doing, very similar. And we just got along great. Cutmaster Kurt offers me for what you're doing now, and he was hungry just as much as I was, and he welcomed me with open arms, and we started doing KUSP. He did a certain night, and whatever night was available, I started doing. I flipped around quite a bit because I just wanted to grab any. I went to Kazzeo and I tried to get hooked up there, and it almost happened. But everywhere that I could find out, I knew that as much as we have commercial radio, and many people would say, Bub, when are you going to do real radio? It was a mixed thought, because for some reason people thought that real radio was commercial radio, and somewhere along the line it was a little confusion. But to this day, I can tell you that if I had got involved in commercial radio in the beginning, this would have never happened. This would have never happened. It would have been another story, similar but a different person. Because in radio you have control programming, and what public radio did was it offered you to program your own music, your own flavor, your own style, your own personality, and that's why I'm grateful to public radio. And the ultimate radio is radio, period. Radio. It's not. I can't say it's commercial radio. It has its purposes. Commercial radio has its purposes, but public radio has even, to me, has a deeper purpose to reach more the soul of a person, musically, spiritually. Public radio is the joint to reach. We talk about KUSP. I constantly thought, KUSP. We owe a lot to KUSP, because that was another ground that was very explosive, because it had, like I mentioned, it had a hungry person that had the same hunger as I did, Cutmaster Kurt, and he wanted to do as much or maybe even more, and you always need somebody to come alongside you and have hunger the same or even more to challenge you, and he challenged me to keep doing what I was doing, and he was pushing the hip hop so much. It just pushed us together. We used to even go to the Bay Area to go get our record pool product together, just talk about music non-stop. The radio station saw how much energy was there, and they decided, hey, we do a jazz broadcast out of Carmel every now and then, Monterey. Let's get these two kids here, well, young gentlemen, Bubba and Kurt, and let's do a live broadcast. And that drove a lot of excitement, because it meant we could have Kurt had a lot to do with this. It meant we could have live MCs actually perform live on air at a dance, and I went there prepared for music, for dancing, and Kurt, the mentality was to get MCs on the mic, and he did that. And that's one of the MC Joe, King Shamik, and Mookie, just a bunch of fellas that he had with him that would broadcast and drop in on his radio show. We had people in from Fort Ord come in to participate at the big party, which was held at the Santa Cruz Fairgrounds, which is what Watsonville-based grounds. It's in Watsonville. People really excited. We had pictures taken at a photo studio, and we had lots of fun for it. We had a lot of fun just planning for the big party, talking about the big party. Big Party was the title on the function that we were going to put on, and it drove a lot of excitement from Watsonville and Santa Cruz, and the peninsula to come see the DJs that would broadcast. Why KUSP is so important? Because KUSP reached, the frequency was so clear, it reached areas that KUBO or KSPB couldn't reach. The clarity was strong. Maybe about 3 years back, I met a full-grown adult who said, "Yeah, I used to listen to KUSP." And I said, "Yeah, what were your shows?" And he was a full-grown man. He goes, "Cut Master Kurt, at KUSP." And that was a great feeling, because he lived right in the mid-seaside, like lower seaside, that Kurt had a following. And it was good to hear, And they told me that where KUBO and KSPB could not reach, KUSP was filling that void in the mid-city when Master Kurt was doing it, and he was reaching up to San Jose areas and everything. And that's why it's so important to mention KUSP. And over the years, I meant to brought it up, but you always thinking fast. But this is a good opportunity for the interview, because it gives you time to recollect and collect thoughts and just share with the world what really happened. To have KUBO, KUSP, KHDC, and then later on to add Muhammad to the role, and then it's just a bunch of fellas get together and know that we needed this, because regular radio wasn't giving us. We had to search for the underground, and the underground was to be found in public radio. Many sources.
We just keep jamming. That was our thing to do. We just had to keep jamming. No matter what came across, we had to keep jamming. For every reason, we had to keep jamming.
For things in life, we had to keep jamming. To uplift ourselves, we had to keep jamming. To change our situations, we had to keep jamming. And it continues. I'm like, for a minute, I dropped off the radio scene for a minute, but then when I did come back, it was just like I said, a minute. I came across a dude who was a very funny individual. Made me laugh, and I wanted to see, man, I got to meet this guy. And his name was Muhammad, and he was new into the area, and he was at the same station that I had just left, and I came back, and we got along great, and I started listening to. First and foremost, I'm radio's biggest fan. I listened to their programming, and he came across Kurt, and they started interacting with each other, and I became a fan of theirs, and I said, man, I gotta get back on this radio thing. Record pools now were something that were still going, but not as I wasn't really pushing as much as I was back in the early days, but I still was up on music. And from that point, I decided to do a little more old school music, something that I knew that I had good knowledge of,
And I knew that these cats that were on right now, Kurt and Muhammad, they were doing what was going on at the moment. And, you know, I felt comfortable. I felt comfortable that they knew what was happening. And I mentioned, I kept doing it like an old school format for quite some time. That's what I've been doing. Then I wanted to reach other forms of styles of music, and I went into quote unquote spiritual hip hop, which I found along the way, and I did that for 7 years. And now I'm doing old school, something that I take great pride in, old school music, many genres, because it represents who I am. I'm loving every minute. To this point, you know, so many changes. Time brings about many changes in life. Comfortable with just grasping different areas of music, different areas, different aspects of, you know, whether I'm listening to Wednesday Rack or freestyle Thursdays, you know, club rack, you know, I'm always like listening to what was out there. But right now, I can say right now I'm enjoying music at my utmost, because I feel at a more relaxed state. You know, it's bizarre how life brings you to a standstill, and just enjoy music a little more. And it's important to me at this time of my life to enjoy the music even more, and just to explore music even more, and to be open-minded. You got to be open-minded to music. You know, even though it's not your flavor, or even though it's not what you just have to be open to what is going on. And as you do that, you'll grab life even with a better grip, and it'll prepare you for what's out there. Because to me, music's the thermometer of life. You gotta be alert. You gotta be a watchtower of what's happening around you. And you always gotta be doing that. And music tells what's happening, what's going on. Right now, rap music will speak up where other people won't speak up. You know, they'll let you know this is going on, that's going on. While other conservative areas just rather to keep a hush hush. You know, so it's a good alert system. It's very good to be listening to what's going on musically. Musically, you gotta be listening. It takes an acquired taste. It takes listening, you know, that goes beyond the ears. You know? And that's where I mentioned the music. It takes an army to feed the masses, and sometimes some might not be feeding them, but you got to know what's being fed. You know, you got to know what's being fed and what's going on.
Gosh, could it be like 1985 to 1987, somewhere in that area? And it was at the time when no one really knew how to promote hip-hop to radio yet, especially on the West Coast. So what I did is I did my homework, and I started tracking stations that were non-commercial or college stations. And Bay Area happened to be one of our biggest markets for Sir Mix-a-Lot, for the support with like KMEL, Cameron Paul. He loved Mix-a-Lot's records. And I knew there was other places other than San Francisco. There was San Jose, and then there was this little tiny spot on the map called, it was Salinas, right? Salinas? And there was a station there, KDON, but they didn't really play rap then. But there was a station there called KHDC, and it was a non-commercial station, but they had a rap show on there. So I called them up, and this guy answered the phone, and man, we just like hit it out really well over the phone. And I said, yo, we always do gigs up in the Bay Area. We're from Seattle. I'm talking about Sir Mix-a-Lot. We're from Seattle, but we do a lot of shows in the Bay Area. Can we roll through Salinas to visit you at KHDC? So I went up there. I didn't bring Mix with me. It was just me and a couple friends. And man, I tell you, boy, it was like, where are we? It was like, it took forever from the Bay Area to get to this place called Salinas. I'd never been there in my life before. But I went there, I met Bubba, and I tell you, from that day on until now, it was like we're family, you know. We hit it off, and he's like my brother.
Yeah, you know, Bubba was a big deal for us. Bubba was, he was kind of, we all looked up to him, especially at first. He was like this voice on the radio, and then you take that voice from the radio, and then you have it so you can go see him at the club. So he was like our rock star at first, and so we all kind of were in awe of him, this mysterious guy from Salinas, and you know, here he is on the turntables with after Bambaataa and all that kind of stuff. And you know, over the years we got to know him, and then he became a friend, and I think especially for people like Kurt, he became more of a peer. So it was a case where it brings him down to earth a little bit, yet still, I mean, to this, I'll still never forget the, you know, how in awe of how incredible he was. And he did Club closed. He started doing Cooper House. We were too young to get in, so we'd sit outside the window and listen to him. And then he started doing Dexter's, and he started doing new wave and mixing in a lot of this electronic English kind of new romantic stuff. And I remember as a 15, 16-year-old, I eventually started DJing, and that was one of my first gigs. But he opened my eyes up to so much other music. Yeah, Bubba was huge and continues to be a huge inspiration.
For me, there's really only one thing to say about Bubba G Scotch, and that is he's the godfather of hip-hop for the Monterey Bay Area. Without him, none of us, me included, would be doing what we're doing, and all praise due to Bubba.
What an inspiration. Okay, it started out mid-'80s. Me and my cousin, Cool One, I'd spend the night at his house or whatever. We listened to Bubba G all night. It used to be KUBO before KHDC. We just hung on every word Bubba said, and the way he described the music was electro. So we stuck to that's the real electro. If you want to hear electro nowadays, it's something else. But electro to the hip hop heads is old school hip hop. What Bubba means to us in our era is something big. You know, like he was a really big inspiration musically. What Bubba means to the Central Coast is like Bambaataa meant to the East Coast.
Scotch, huge influence. I remember listening to him on the radio quite a bit. He was kind of like this radio superstar persona, you know, so to speak. And I just remember listening to him quite a bit. And later on, he was such an inspiration for not just myself, but you know, Cutmaster Kurt and so on, that we actually made a song for him. I believe the title was Thanks for the Inspiration, and MC Groove did a rap for that song, and I did the scratching and so on, and we gave it to Bubba G Scotch. It was kind of like years later where I actually got to meet him. I was so excited about that. And then at the same time, he was excited to meet us, and I was like, you know, you almost like feel not worthy or whatever. But he was such just a huge inspiration, and I know not just for DJs, but just for hip hop in general. If you grew up in this area,
I will have to say that Bubba G Scotch is hands down the most influential person in Central Coast hip hop today. Bubba G Scotch's shows on the radio were the first time I ever heard any hip-hop on the radio ever. Stations like K-Don and even KMEL, they weren't playing hip-hop music at all. They wouldn't play anything with a rap on it. So Bubba G Scotch is someone that I look up to. He's the person that brought the music here to the Central Coast. That's pretty much how I got to hear a lot of, especially the West Coast funk type hip-hop music that was being created at the time. If it wasn't for Bubba G Scotch, I don't think that I would be as musical as I was today, and I don't think that a lot of people on the Central Coast would be where we are musically at where we are today. To say the least, Bubba G Scotch is legendary in Central Coast hip-hop.
First of all, Bubba G is like, if you go back for me to like elementary school, that name just it resonated, you know, with you. If you heard Bubba G Scotch, you knew it was fresh, you knew it was dope. It wasn't until I was working at Sam Goody in the mall. I was working at Sam Goody record store, music store, in my senior year of high school. And this cat walks in, and he's got this big bushy hair, and he's, you know, kind of thick guy, and he had a fanny pack on. picks up the Source magazine. It just happened to have Bambaataa, I think it was Herc and Flash as the old school throwback issue. Around 93. I remember being kind of starstruck and not knowing what to say, and I'm a shy guy. I've always been a shy guy, and especially back then, you know, I was really shy, so I couldn't muster up even enough to introduce myself and say something to him. And later down the road, he would reach out to me, just give me calls or whatever, like just totally unprovoked or whatever, just talk, you know, saying that I was doing good work, telling me, you know, that he read my stuff, he appreciated the work I was doing, and I've always kind of considered him like kind of, you know, sideways, just kind of a mentor, but, you know, off in the distance. He's got that sage presence about him, you know, as it is. He's like, you know, the Obi-Wan Kenobi for local hip-hop heads, the real hip-hop heads, you know. It's something, it's a rare treat, you know, to know a guy like that, you know, and it's an awesome blessing for us that we have that connection here on the Central Coast through him, you know. I mean, but that name, Bubba G Scotch, I just remember back in elementary school, you said that name, and, you know, it was like, whoa, like, that guy's bad. You maybe didn't even understand everything around it, but that's how I've always perceived him, even going back to then and to now. And, you know, just respect. When I think of Bubba G Scotch, I think of respect, man.
I can't say enough about Bubba G Scotch and the inspiration he's been to me as far as being a DJ, and even more so as I've, you know, come to know him on a personal level, become really, you know, good friends with him. Bubba G is just the epitome of what a DJ should be. He's got the personality, he's got the musical knowledge, he's got the skill. He's just, you know, he is a DJ. Music is Bubba G Scotch, and there's no words and no actions I could ever, you know, give to thank him for everything he's done for not just me, but for countless DJs here on the Central Coast, and, you know, countless music fans here on the Central Coast. Bubba G, since 1981, has just given and given and given, and that just shows the measure of the man that he is. So, you know, all due respect, and you know, nothing but props for Bubba G Scotch. He's the man.